Good morning. It's Saturday, February 6th. And as I look around this country, I recognize the fact that we are very, very divided. There are red states and there are blue states. So somebody posed the question, what would happen if this nation split and we had a country of red states and a country of blue states? Could the red states really survive? When you take a step back and look at this problem with a wide focus lens, you recognize that nearly all of the red states are basically poor. The GDP of all the red states combined is only 25% of the national GDP in this country. So the blue states are wealthy compared to the red states. The red states are the poorest. They're the poorest states. They're the most polluted states. They have the worst educational systems and the worst health care and the worst infrastructure. And what they have in common, they are all run by Republicans. So when you hear this nonsense about the cities, the great cities in this country all being screwed up because they're run by Democrats, think about how badly the Republicans are running the red states and how the pandemic ran wild in the red states because their leaders refused to have a mask mandate, refused to do the correct thing for their people, and claimed that because there were wide open spaces in places like Montana and Wyoming, and that meant that the virus wouldn't catch up with them. Well, they were wrong. The virus caught up with them plenty. Now, if you look at the blue states with better education, better economic situations, better health prospects, better services, cleaner air, and waterways. And those states happen to be run by Democrats. Those are the same Democrats that our great past president, the leader of a group that is now trying to break the Republican Party in half, said the problems in all the blue states were caused because they were run by Democrats. Well, let me tell you something. Those blue states fund the red states. You have a state like Kentucky that doesn't tax their people properly, that has two of the worst senators in the country, and all they do in order to make ends meet is take money from the federal government, money that was put there for the benefit of all, but most of it came from blue states. So I ask you, if this country was split up into red states and blue states, how would the red states survive? How would they survive? Right now, they don't make enough money to survive. They are surviving off the backs of the blue states. And they condemn the blue states for all of the bad things that happen in this country. The riots. Think about it. Why would anybody want to riot in a red state? There's nothing to gain there. There's no job opportunities really in the red states. That's part of the problem in this country. Now, I don't know whether the people in the red states don't want the industry. They don't want those good paying jobs. They're content living 150 years behind the times. And probably that's all a function of the poor education system that's running rampant in those red states and the healthcare systems that are bad in those states. So why would companies even attempt to put any good-paying jobs in those states since the people there are not educated well enough to do those jobs? And yes, people run to some of the red states to retire. And they go there because there are no income taxes in those red states. And that's one of the big problems in the red states. If you don't have income taxes, you can't give the benefits to the people that live in those states. And the blue states have higher taxes. And that's why the the blue states are doing better. Because the people who make money pay taxes. So if you want to live in a state that is piss poor because they refuse to tax their people, and that affects everything that goes on in their states. Because you can't have a good public education system if you can't pay the teachers. And you have to have taxes to pay the teachers. And you have taxes to pay other people that need to work in the state. So because you don't want to have income taxes in your red state, you're doing a disservice to the people in that state. And plus, you're a sponge. You're taking money from the blue states through the federal government. And that's not the right way to survive. So if you take a real look at the perspective of this country and the way we are broken and the way we are so divided and so divisive, and the thought processes in many places are so bad. It's because of this terrible division and the lack of funds and education that is going into those areas that create white supremacist groups, anti-Semitic groups, America-only groups. It's a terrible situation. And if you really look at the big picture, it's because those red states don't have enough money. They just don't have enough money. And they can't get the good jobs. Because there are no good jobs in those states, probably. Now, if you're a farmer or something like that, and you had a good farm at one time, maybe you made money because you sold it to an agri corporation like Monsanto. They bought up a bunch of farms. There's probably very few little farmers around. And then there's the oil fields and places like that where there were good jobs. But those things are polluting the atmosphere, and they're going fast. And if we look at the Keystone Pipeline fiasco and all the jobs that are lost because of that, or will be lost because of that. And yes, the federal government is at fault for that. And yes, the federal government should provide training and outsourcing and outplacement for all those people who lose their jobs or who are working on the pipelines. There's a lot that can be done to save the red states if they would take their heads out of the sand, so to speak, and realize that they need to do a better job. And not look at the blue states and tell everybody how badly the blue states are being run. The blue states have these big problems because we're getting a lot of people who don't want to live in the red states. So until this nation gets unified and straightened out, this is what we're going to be faced with. Red states without much of a future and blue states supporting them. And maybe the blue states will lower their taxes, so there won't be enough taxes to distribute to the red states. How about that? Well, in any event, I've said my piece for today, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.